Hi, and welcome to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast, co-hosted by Abby Fearing, the Badass Breastfeeder, and Dianne Cassidy, IBCLC.
Hey, welcome to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast. I'm Dianne, the lactation consultant.
And I'm Abby, the Badass Breastfeeder.
And if you were with us last week, we were talking about Laura, and she emailed us a situation that happened to her when she had her first baby 17 months ago, and she's now pregnant with her second. And was a little bit concerned about, the weight gain of the baby the first time around, and she got some really poor guidance and just really very, very difficult situation that unfortunately we see a lot.
And if you weren't with us last week, stop and go back.
Go back and listen
because you want to hear her whole story. Her whole story is very interesting, and I guarantee you that you're going to be able to relate to part of it.
Yeah.
And so start there and then come here.
Yes. So we left off talking about what happens with insurance and lactation consulting. So as I was saying, lactation is supposed to be covered by the Affordable Care Act. It was something that was put in. Everybody gets a breast pump now. That was a big deal. We were so happy about that. We were so excited when they decided to cover lactation services and all that stuff. But it really depends on what your plan is. Like, they really will find ways to not do it. You know, here, and it's so variable. Like, here we've got Excelis, which is, the majority of the people have, and then we've got MVP, and then Aetna, and then there's a couple other ones, little ones that are filtered in there too. But Aetna, I can bill Aetna directly for my services, and they will cover 6 home visits.
Oh, awesome!
In full, like they'll just cover it for a mom.
And you know what? I really have to stop saying awesome to those kinds of things.
I should say, be normal, right?
Right. Damn right. You know, it should be normal, and we shouldn't be like, oh, yay. No, this is exactly how it should be, and it should even be more.
It should. Yeah, it should be like unlimited. You need it? Go ahead. Whatever you need.
You need to have it. Yeah.
But they will cover 6. Excelis will cover nothing. They will cover absolutely nothing. And if they will not let me in network, they're like, nope, we're not credentialing anybody into network as a lactation consultant. We're not accepting that at this time. If a mother calls them, which happens all the time, because they'll say, oh, I've got this great insurance that covers everything for me. Call them up and see what they say. Call them. I want to see a lactation consultant. They'll say, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have anybody in network. Because they won't put anybody in network. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very frustrating. MVP will cover like half, which is, better than a stick in the eye, but still. It just really depends. I can give people information on how to get it reimbursed or how to try to get it reimbursed. And I tell people all the time, file a claim, because if they see these claims coming in, then maybe they'll go, oh, this is a thing.
Yeah.
Like, we need to do this. And it's prevention.
Yeah.
It is prevention. It is supposed to be covered. For God's sakes. Right. We shouldn't have to beg for this. This is ridiculous. But if it is not, like, if you want to fight with your insurance company, call them up, see what you can get. Like, call them up when you're pregnant and find out what can I have here? And if they say, oh, you get a hospital visit. No, of course you get a hospital visit. That doesn't count. What do you get outside the hospital? Come on.
God.
You have to really spell it out. And if somebody says to you, yes, it's covered, write their name down or something, because the next person might tell you it won't be. The other thing that I have found that happens is sometimes your pediatrician, especially if it's a weight gain issue or you're really complaining about pain or something like that, your lactation consultant or your pediatrician might be like, I think you should see a lactation consultant. And if they write something up, like a referral or something, that might be more likely to be covered than if you're just calling and going on your own.
I remember also I was working with this company that helps women connect with a breast pump through their insurance. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to the person, he was like, you also might, you get all of this, like, because some people call their insurance company and they'll be like, no, you're not covered. You don't get a free pump, when actually it's not true. And so there's these people that answer the phone at insurance companies don't always know. Mm-mm. They're not always, they don't even always know what the hell they're talking about. So I don't know what to do about that, but like just keep calling or like whatever, or ask where you can find, this information written down somewhere or something, because even just like the people answering the phones might not have the right information.
Right. They might not. And that happened when they first started covering these pumps, when Obamacare went through and they first started covering the pumps, the insurance company, it was hilarious because the insurance companies were like, what? Like they had no idea.
Yeah.
And
I was like, no, we don't.
They had no idea.
And they're like, yes, you do.
Yeah. They were clueless. And I would tell people all the time, don't even call your insurance company. Because they'd be like, well, how do I get my pump? Do I call the insurance? I'm like, do not call the insurance company. Call the durable medical equipment place because they're the ones that know what to do. Your insurance company has no idea. I was working at a hospital at the time and had to call about something, one of the pumps or something that a mom had a question because they needed to get a prescription from the hospital and blah, blah, blah. And the person I had on the phone, she was like, we are? I remember her saying this, we are? And I'm like, yes, you're covering this now. We are? Really? Oh, all right. Well, I guess they need a prescription. I don't know. Like, totally. So now like, that is finally like under control now, at least as much as I can see. But it really took a little bit of time, and they had no idea.
And it does. I mean, it takes time to train everybody and let everybody know that this is what's happening.
And I can't imagine how many changes must be coming through on healthcare on a regular basis that they would have to try to keep up with.
Yes, right. Yep.
So
right, and it's not exactly, and we're talking about healthcare, which covers like everything, everything regarding your health. So you think like you're calling about lactation. Well, like some person, you may be the first person that person's ever talked to about lactation.
So don't hesitate to call them and see what you can find out because it's really important for you some things. So we were talking about how to find a real lactation consultant, going on ILCA and finding that and seeing where you can go with it. I don't hesitate. Like if somebody is referred to you from your doctor's office and it's somebody that works in that office or whatever, don't hesitate to even say like, what's your background? Or, if you're meeting with somebody prenatally and say, this happened to me last time. This was my situation. Would you have had me doing formula like that? Because this is not what I wanted to do. I felt very unsupported. There's ways to have a mom, and really, she might have felt so much differently about this situation if somebody had just said to her, you know what? This has to be so traumatizing for you right now. I know you feel like you're doing the best you can and you're feeding and you're pumping and you're coming to these doctor's appointments and we don't know, why the baby isn't gaining weight, but we really want to help you figure this out. But, like, if somebody had sat and talked with her about it and like validated her, this would have had a completely different outcome.
Yeah. If somebody who has chosen to work in the helping profession had actually spoken to her like they were trying to help her, maybe she wouldn't have felt so traumatized. Yeah.
Plus, I mean, she had no family. I mean,
we can't. Yeah, you can. I'm sorry. Go. Yeah.
That's just the whole. Like, she was a total setup for like a postpartum depression situation, and it sounds like she came out of this on top. Thank goodness she had great support with her partner, and she trusted her instinct. But this is where like we really need the people that are working with brand new mothers to really step up and be like, I know this is really hard for you. Let's figure out how we can make it better.
Yeah.
Mothers should be involved in the plan. It shouldn't be like, you have to do this or you're going to be put in the hospital. Yeah, they should be part of the plan of how you're going to make this work.
And what is that? We're going to admit you into the hospital so that the nurses can help you? Like, hold the baby while you IV? Or like, what? When does that even... I've never heard of that. And it's not like I don't... have you heard of that?
I have not heard of that. However, when I worked at the hospital, I had heard with my own ears nurses say things like, your baby's starting to look a little bit yellow. You might want to introduce some formula if you want to go home with your baby. We did hear that one.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a direct threat.
Yeah.
And of course the mom's going to be like, well, I don't want my baby to stay and have to go under lights, so I'll give formula because I want to take my baby home. He wouldn't say that. Yeah,
right. I know. At that point, you're kind of like, how do I get out of here? Mm-hmm. It's like jail or something. Like, what do? I got to get out. I got to get out on good behavior. If I just like, and like agree to things, then maybe they'll let me go home and give me a break. Give me a break with the whole letting thing.
Yes. So I think for Laura, like for going forward for her baby number 2, like she's already so ahead of the game because she's trying to figure out how to get ahead of the game already.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
But I think first of all too, like staying with the same provider. Like if she goes to a doctor visit, you know, a day after discharge, if that doctor says, we don't think the baby's gaining well, I think she should continue to see that same doctor. The other thing is, were they weighing the baby on the same scale every time? Mm-hmm. You know, like what was happening with that? Did they ever watch the baby breastfeed? Like that's another thing I'll ask parents too. Like if they say, oh, my doctor said A, B, and C, like, did anybody in the office watch the baby breastfeed? Did anybody see the baby latched? Does anybody know if the baby is even latching well? Has anybody seen that? I mean, that's a big part of it too. If somebody's saying to you, oh, your baby's not doing what they're supposed to be doing, then why? Why not? Solve the problem. Why not? They just say, oh, your baby's not doing well and it must be your fault. You must not have enough milk and your baby's not feeding well. You have a lazy baby and they're not feeding well and you don't have enough milk. So you have to give formula. Well, why? Why is that happening? We don't give birth to lazy children. That doesn't just happen. Like it just, you know.
Right. Just that's like, oh, my baby he chose not to breastfeed. Right. He's not into it.
I mean,
babies are born to breastfeed. They want to, and they will with a little help.
Right. And I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen. It could very well have been a sucking issue. She maybe wasn't really transferring as efficiently as she needed to. But that is where if you have somebody that is trained and knows what to look for, they will solve that problem.
Yeah. And so, you know, she says that she lives in like a small town outside of Minneapolis. It's like 20 minutes outside of Minneapolis. And I don't know, I think like bigger cities tend to have more options. Mm-hmm. I'd make that 20-minute drive.
Oh, yeah.
I would make that 20-minute drive to someplace I would like tap into. I'll look and see if the badass breastfeeders of there's a group of a Facebook group of moms who are finding each other all over the world. And I'll see if there is somebody, and I can see for anybody who's listening right now, let me know. You can tell me, ask me if there's one in your city and I'll help you find it. Find out if there's one in Minneapolis and get in there and be like, I'm looking for a lactation consultant that's going to support breastfeeding. And the moms in there can be like, here's one.
Yeah.
And like, that's a good thing about bigger cities is because there's more options. There tends to be more people. There tends to be like, you know, just more resources.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had moms that come from a distance to see me.
Yeah.
Like I had mom a couple weeks ago come like an hour and a half.
Well, yeah, I live in Chicago. It takes me 20 minutes to go to the end of the block.
Right.
Like it's like 20 minutes is not, I know when you live in a small town, 20 minutes is like, you know, you can go 3 towns over in 20 minutes. But I mean, really, you know,
it's
make
worth
the
it.
drive. Oh, yeah.
It's worth it for sure. It is worth it. And this is the kind of thing, Laura, I don't want to, you know, like put a little bug in your ear here, but this is the kind of thing that makes lactation consultants because you have things like this that happen and then you solve your own problem and you get through the problem. And then you're like, I don't want this to happen to somebody else. I'm going to go on and get the training that I need to be able to help other mothers.
Right.
And this is where we get this peer support from. People are like, oh, how did you end up being a lactation consultant? Like, nobody grows up and says, that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Like, it's just...
Right. You have a terrible time breastfeeding.
Right. You get into it because it became a passion when you were doing it yourself.
That's what I always say. People are like, how'd you get into social work? I'm like, I was a troubled teen.
Yeah.
I ran into a lot of social workers, so I became one.
You know? I mean, it's what happened. It's just...
Yeah. So we have yet to even talk about this whole thing of how her boobs are broken because they're tubular.
I forgot that part. Oh, yeah. The broken boobs.
Yeah, her boobs are broken. So yeah, if you remember, so those, again, if you're listening to this episode, you need to go back to the previous episode. You need to go back to part 1 so you can hear Laura's entire story. You're going to love it. I mean, not love it like because it sucks, but I mean like, you know, there's a lot that you're going to hear about yourself in here because it's just like, yeah. Anyway, so this person, somebody tells her that she has tubular breasts, and that's an indication of low supply. So let's beat this one for a few minutes.
Oh my God.
So is that true, Dianne?
So there is a thing called insufficient glandular tissue. And there is like certain breast shapes. They say the tubular breast because women that have tubular breasts could have less breast tissue.
Okay.
But I have definitely, again, it's not a cookie cutter situation. And I have seen women that are, have tubular breasts that are fine, that do not have a problem with making more milk. Usually,
do most women that have tubular breasts have insufficient glandular tissue?
No. And it usually goes along with something else hormonal too.
So it's not even most.
No. It's not all that super common.
It's one of these like things that's like there's like some sort of correlation.
Yeah. I'm wondering.
Then we're going to talk about correlation versus causation.
Yes. I'm wondering if this woman just is not like, did she not maybe see a lot of breasts? I don't know. Like, I know that sounds so weird, but.
No, I know. It's like, oh, your boobs don't look like mine. They must be weird and broken.
Like, why would you say that to somebody?
I don't know.
I don't know. I hear stuff like that all the time, and I always wonder, like, why would you say that? I hear the flat nipple thing. I hear the inverted nipple thing. I hear, when women come to me and they're like, well, the baby's not latching good on the right side, but that nipple over there is weird. So they said that's why that might happen. No, it's not weird. It's
right.
It's fine. It has nothing to do with that. Nothing has anything to do with that. Maybe she just really doesn't know what breastfeeding breasts look like or something. Yeah. I don't know.
She doesn't know. She's never seen those posters that are out now of all different kinds of boobs hanging there.
Right. Exactly.
Maybe she'd have one of those in her office and she'd be like, oh, not everyone looks the same.
Right. I don't, how much experience did that mother have? Or did that woman have in being able to assess this?
And I think you're right that there's like, they're searching for answers and they don't have answers. So they just start grasping at things. Well, look at your boobs, look at your nipple, look at that, look at that. No, it's like, well, it's not helpful because the chances of that actually being part of the issue are very slim.
Right.
And they're grasping at straws because they don't know. And they can't say, I don't know.
Right.
Which sucks. It sucks to say, I don't know.
And I'll tell you, if she really did have insufficient glandular tissue, if those were really truly tubular breasts that were not developing milk, she would have had to give that baby formula or she would have continued to lose weight.
Yeah.
And that's not what happened with this situation. So.
Yeah, she was gaining weight slowly.
Right. She was gaining slowly. Probably the way her body was meant to gain.
Yeah.
But she would have continued to lose because she would not have made enough to even be able to sustain the baby as a weight gain.
Right.
So that is not a problem here for her.
And and this is what Lori even says at the end. She said, my mom breastfed all three of us exclusively for 6 months and then some more. And she looks just like me.
Right.
So like she's like, but wait, my mom breastfed me and she's got boobs that look like mine.
I mean, it kind of goes back to when people used to say, oh, you have small boobs, you're not going to be able to breastfeed. Your breasts are too small.
Right, yes. I
have seen women with
big boobs, so you're going to have oversupply.
No. I have seen women with big boobs not have a great supply at all.
Right.
And I have seen women with very small boobs have an oversupply. So it has no bearing on what it looks like. It's all about what's going on inside your body. It's really just, people need to get educated about that. And there's nothing wrong with you. Women are perfect and beautiful, and they look exactly like they should look.
Yeah, and stop calling tubular breasts. They're breasts. Let's call them breasts.
Right. But we do ask things like, did you have breast changes during pregnancy? Because when you get fuller and you go up a cup size or, even whatever, if you go up a cup size or if you go up a little bit in size or if you get fuller, you're getting more breast tissue growth. That is your body getting ready to breastfeed. sometimes women aren't aware that they're even having that. And I have to ask the dad, like, does she give breastfeeding? Because sometimes the mom's like, I don't know. And the dad's like, yeah, you do. You know, like it's just because I think like some people are told, oh my gosh, like from their friends, oh my gosh, went up 2 cup sizes. I got huge when I was pregnant. You don't look huge. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Right.
You know, so maybe she had, you know, did she have breast changes? Like I would have asked too, like, how much were you pumping when you pumped? And I think I've said this before, but for people that, you know, have never listened before, pumping does not indicate how much milk you have, but it does tell me a story, you know, like, and if the mom says, yeah, I'm pumping after every feed, like she was, and I'm not getting a drop, then I might be concerned. But if she says, yeah, I'm pumping after every feeding and I'm getting about half an ounce and I'm feeding it to the baby, that's fine. Like, that's not a milk supply problem.
Yeah.
You know, like, if you were not getting anything when you're pumping, that would be a problem. She did not have a milk supply issue. She didn't, or that baby wouldn't have gained. She would have supplement the whole time.
Yeah, no, and I didn't have it either. And I mean, like when I had my first son, I was induced. So they were like, you're not making any milk yet. So because you were induced, you know, because your body, you know, or you were induced.
It was broken.
And so so your baby's starving. Like he was like hours old, and they're like, you need to give him formula. And so I did. I mean, I was like freaking out. You know, they're like, he's starving. That's why he's crying. That's right. He was crying. He was crying because he was starving.
No other reason.
Yeah. And then, yeah. And so then he's on formula, and then it's like the same thing. Then you're on the formula, and then it's like this vicious cycle.
It's crazy. And like we were saying on the last episode, again, go back and listen if you haven't listened yet. But when you get on that cycle of supplementing, then it's like it's hard to get off of it. But what I think is important to say too about it is formula has its purpose. It really does. It's got its purpose. It's there for a reason. If you are having trouble breastfeeding, if you are, you know, needing to supplement so that we can get the baby's weight up and whatever, keep them out of the hospital, according to that lady, then that's okay. But you need to be working with somebody to make sure that you're not overfeeding, you're keeping your milk supply where we need it to be, you're working on the milk supply, working on the latch, working on the feeds. It doesn't mean we just abandon everything. It means it's just a Band-Aid. That's all it is. It's supposed to be used as a medication. It's just something that we, you know, just to get over the hump, if that's what we need to do. And not all the time. It's not the magic cure-all. It's not the be-all and end-all. Really, it's not. And if you want to be a breastfeeding mom, you can be a breastfeeding mom. We just have to get you the right help and the right support.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very frustrating when we read stuff like this. And I know it happens all over the place. But
it does. And this is every mom's story, right? I mean, this is like a different details. Like every mom listening is saying like, well, that didn't happen to me. That didn't happen to me. Well, right. She's got different details, but like there are so many, the majority of moms go through something like this when it comes to breastfeeding.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that was when I was writing before this blog even started, I was like writing my breastfeeding story, you know, you write your birth story and then like, I was like writing it down and then like I started the blog and I was like, well, I'm just going to share this. And people were like going nuts. Mm-hmm. They were like, oh my God, that happened to me too. They happened to me too. And I was like, what? Yeah. Well, that's weird. That's weird that this like screwed up situation is happening to all these people.
I know.
And you know, it is. And again, like, so I have this friend, I always use her as an example. She's a childhood friend and she did not want to breastfeed. She knew about breastfeeding when she got pregnant and she wanted nothing to do with it. It made her uncomfortable. The whole situation, you know, sometimes women have trauma in their childhood, any kind of something like that. And breastfeeding was not an option for her. And she did not want to do it. And that's her damn business.
Right.
And she didn't do it and she fed formula and that's, you know, that's fine. And she knew that was something that she just could not do. She just couldn't do it. And okay. So there you, and so there she's saying, then she's using her option. She's making an informed decision to make this, decision about her life and her body and her child. And that's exactly what everybody should be empowered to do.
Yeah.
And then, so we have the flip side too, where formula has become so like a reflex in the hospital, where it's just like this, even when there's no reason, it's just like, oh, well, here we have this, use it, here we go, here, we got to use this stuff. And it's a lot of the time, because I said no too. And I was told it was just really not an option, and I felt the same way. Like, how am I going to get out of here? How am I going to, like, I walked in here willingly, but I sure can't walk out willingly.
Right.
And you are a lot of times bullied into using formula, even when you're, maybe somebody's not standing over you making threatening comments, but just the fact that being told that your baby's starving, or just like you can't leave until your baby's like, doing X, Y, and Z. Like, these are threatening things, and this makes women feel trapped, and it's terrible. And so, yeah, again, with like people having the information, all of the information, and well, moms can't help it, because people are pushing them around.
Yep.
And I didn't even go back to a hospital with my second child because I was too scared. I was too scared to get myself into that situation again. I don't even like being in elevators.
Yeah.
I did not want to be in a hospital without my choice to leave. Like that freaked me out.
Yeah. I've had other people tell me that too, that had home births after their hospital births. They were like, I couldn't get out, and I just didn't know what to do.
Here? Yeah. It's very like nerve wracking. And like, yeah, I mean, having this information is vital to you making the informed decision about your body. And don't let anyone talk to you like you're stupid and like you're, like you're under their control. I know not everybody's got the personality where they're going to be like, get out of my face, but like, do not let doctors talk to you like that. Don't let people bully you.
Right. Be educated on it. That's all. Yeah. Know what's right and what's not. And when, right. it's so important to have that kind of control over what's going on.
And actually, to not be bullied is to not be rude or snappy or loud at people. To not be bullied is just have information. To have information and to know what the situation is. And Laura said many, many times throughout her email to us that her gut feeling was that everything was okay.
Right.
And then even with the boob comment, her feeling is like, well, that doesn't even make any sense. So she knew, she got bullied. She was freaking out and all this. And all along, she knew everything was okay.
And, the same kind of thing with, the hospital thing, when I had my twins, my son was down like 10% and they weren't going to discharge him. And I remember, and I'm not one to really even like, at least at that time, to really be one to speak up and go against things. And I remember being like, I'm not leaving one of my babies here. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I refused. And then they discharged me, but they sent a nurse home to check his weight every couple days or whatever. And then after a few days, I got rid of her too. But I was like, I'm not leaving a twin here. No way.
Oh my God. Yeah.
No way. And it's just, I don't know. It's very frustrating. But if you can get the info, if you have the information ahead of time, and I know like when you're pregnant, oh my God, it's so foggy, everything is so foggy and you don't really, and I had a mom recently that was in a childbirth series that I did in December, and she listens to the podcast too, so if she hears it, she'll know it's her. But she was in my breastfeeding class and my childbirth series. And in my breastfeeding class, I don't expect everybody to remember everything because you're being given so much information from all over the place when you're pregnant. But she remembered that I had said about talking about dairy allergies when you're breastfeeding. I'm not a huge fan of the dairy allergy thing. So, I mean, I know it happens, but I don't think it happens as much as people say it does. That's kind of my thing. And that I can complain about that another day. But the, she sends me this Facebook message, like frantically sends me this Facebook message one day because she couldn't find my information, find me a different way. So she sends me a Facebook message and she's like, oh my God, I had the baby a couple weeks early and this is what happened. And they had me doing all this stuff. And, the baby, long story short, the baby is like super fussy and miserable. And the doctor said that he thinks it's a dairy allergy and he wants me to stop breastfeeding and go on Nutramigen. And I'm like, what? No. And she goes, but I remember that you said, don't do that. She's like, I remember that from your class that you said, don't do this.
Oh my God.
So what do I do? And I was just like, oh my God, and I told her, I'm like, I think it's an oversupply issue, which it was because the baby was in the hospital for a week with different, whatever going on because she was a few weeks early. And they told the mom to pump. So she was pumping like crazy. And then the baby was breastfeeding. And then they discharged them. And the baby's breastfeeding fine. And they never told her to stop pumping. So now she's got this huge oversupply problem and was never given any guidance on what to do. And the baby's fussy. And they've like, oh, it must be that you're eating dairy. So just stop breastfeeding. But she got some information prior to be like, this doesn't sound right to me. I need to figure out what I really need to do here. And that's what we want from you mamas. We want you guys to be like, all right, I got some information. I don't think what they're telling me is quite right. Let me make my own decision on this. We're not telling you to be like, hold up picket signs in front of your pediatrician's office or anything like that. But
you can do that too. If you
want. We just want you to be informed. Like we want you to be informed.
Right.
That, it's so important. You would be with anything else that happens. But I feel like with babies, we start out so like timid. And then you really as your baby gets older, you start to get a little bit more vocal about what's going on. But we should be that way from the very start.
Yeah. And it helps to take those classes, if you can find them and, you start getting information like really early.
Yeah. Get the info and, just read on stuff and it's important. It really is. They have online. I mean, I don't think the online childbirth and breastfeeding classes would be as good as actually going to one, but they do have them for people that are just too busy to actually go.
Oh yeah. Or buy a book, not what to expect when you're expecting.
No, don't buy
because then all kinds of stuff that you weren't expecting is going to happen. And then, like a breastfeeding book.
I have so many women that when they're pregnant, they do so much stuff for the pregnancy, but nobody really thinks about the breastfeeding piece. Nobody plans on that.
Well, I remember, because standing in between you and breastfeeding is birth.
Right.
And that is all that can fill your head. It's just like, oh my God, I have to get this baby out of my vagina. And it's just birth turns out to be, of course, this amazing thing, but it's literally, a lot of hours or a few hours or whatever long, but it's literally counted in hours.
Yeah.
But it's so, you can't, it's so hard to think about anything beyond that because it just seems like, oh my God, you have to go through this magical gate. You got to make it through that.
But even Laura, she was I read and I thought I was prepared. And then when there is problems, it's what do you do? Who do you go to? Yeah. When you're pregnant, you've got an OB you can always kind of fall back on. There is no, but when you're pregnant or when you're breastfeeding, you have to find it yourself. You have to search out that info and it's frustrating and overwhelming.
Yeah. That's why I think you should find a lactation consultant before you even have your baby.
I agree. So Laura, definitely reach out. We can always Skype. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
But, and anybody that's out there, we can give you some info. If you need info on how to find a good lactation consultant in your area, we'll help you out with this.
Well, yeah. Or send us your story. If you have an interesting story where things happened, send it to us and we can read it and we can talk all about it.
Oh my God. Yeah. Because it is so good for people to hear, especially to hear that, that you weren't the only one that this happened to.
Yeah. Right.
I think that makes people feel a little bit more validated too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you, Laura, for sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you.
And if there was anything else, definitely, hit us up. But we'd love to hear how it goes with the next baby. So,
Yeah.
So stay a badass.
Yeah.
So that we can
send us pictures.
Yeah, so we can know what's going on. And I don't even know what we're going to talk about next week. So sometimes I'll say,
partner support.
Oh, partner support. Yes. We're going to talk about partner support. And this is key because as you saw in Laura's email, she said her partner was her rock and she wouldn't have been able to do it.
Yeah, can you imagine going through all of that with somebody with nobody, or even with somebody who was like, forget it. Just forget it. Just give formula. Just forget it. God, it makes, and so many people go through that.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that next week, and just it'll be fun. It always is.
It is.
Yeah. Always.
We're a blast.
You want to live with us, don't you? Everybody wants to hang out with us. All right. So we will see you all next week, and leave a review or send us an email, and we'll talk to you next week. See ya.
Bye.